Hi, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Ask a Fractional Q&A. My name's David Bonfilio. I'm a Fractional VP of Sales, and uh, I have been working with two other fractional professionals to coordinate these discussions. Of course, it's Corey Hanscom and Jillian Middlemark. Corey is fractional CMO. Jillian is fractional CFO and runs her company, ResolveWorks. And so we have been really having a lot of fun with these conversations with other fractionals. And today we have someone very special with us. May I introduce to you John Arms?
Well, thank you. I'm special. I love hearing that. My mom used to say that, but that means a lot. Thank you for saying that.
Well, John, I've had the pleasure of working with you a little bit, and you referred me to my first client, and so I will forever be grateful for that. And I sort of consider you, with the leadership that you've taken on in fractional, I sort of think of you as the Dalai Lama of the fractional economy. Okay, enough focus on that. I'm interested, John, in talking to you about your work as a fractional CMO, and understanding more deeply about your work in that space. So, you know what? Give us a minute or two on what you're doing right now and how you're working with clients.
Sure, I'd love to. And first, I want to say thank you for having me on today. I really appreciate it. Thank you, all three of you, for allowing me to enter into your space. That's a wonderful gift, and I appreciate it. And also the comment about your first fractional client, and that's really the core of what fractional is. It's watching out for the fractional to your left and to your right. That comes from a U.S. military thing, actually. A friend of mine teaches leadership, and I always believe that about fractional is if you're watching out for each other, this community that we're in, the whole thing lifts and rises, and it's something anybody can do. So thank you for saying that. Your question about how I'm doing this fractional stuff as a fractional CMO. So this has been a really interesting space this year in fractional CMO work. Fractional in general, of course, but fractional CMO work has become a really interesting space. We all come to fractional as fractional marketing leaders with a backpack full of wisdom about this wonderful craft we call marketing. And that makes us inherently really good at strategy and planning. I mean, when you've seen 1,000 battles, right? You get to know the battlefield pretty well, and you're very, very good at that. What's been a couple things that have been very interesting. One is AI has entered the space finally in a meaningful way, and for marketers. And what I mean by that is on the strategy side. You can get ChatGPT to quick write a blog for you. That's fine, whatever. But the ability to reach deeply into insights and gather that efficiently has come onto the scene very strong with a tool called Ella that I use and a lot of other marketers use. So that's been a big deal, and I apply that in my practice every day. The other one in marketing that I think has been a big unlock or wake up on the client side is, you all know this, wherever you are in fractional, right? Are you just the thinker? Are you the thinker and the doer? And that's true for ops and IT and finance and all of it, right? Sales and all that. And what's happening is customers are starting to understand the delineation between those two. The strategic side of thinking and planning. I see Jillian has all this wonderful EOS wonderfulness behind her, right? All that ability to strategize and plan. But that's different, right? That's different than the email campaigns and the social media posts and the paid media. And they're not the same. And I've seen a growth of clients starting to understand that. And that's been great. That's to their benefit, So how do I practice? Well, that's how I do. I come in on strategy and planning. And all of that is pretty useless if you just write a plan and deliver it. You have to be attached to the success of it over time. So that's how I do what I do, is I have to start with the strategy and the plan, and then I have to be attached to the execution, but I don't do the execution. So that's how I'm doing my stuff.
Hello, John. Could you share with me a description maybe of a company that might be the most ready for a fractional CMO?
You are a leader in the company and you're wearing more than the hat that you want to wear. And you're doing that because you're a trooper, you're carrying the water because you're plucky and you're bootstrapping, but you know deep down that that is not a sustainable model. You're going to burn yourself out. So if you're wearing more than one hat, take off the one that doesn't belong to you, the one that doesn't light your fire, and give it to a fractional. Now, you could go hire a full timer and spend 300 grand to have a full timer, but I'm like, well, why do that if you can find Corey or Dave or Jillian, right? Go get a fractional, take it off your shoulders, put it on theirs. They'll crush it where you struggle with it. So that's one sort of psychological place. And sort of tells on that are the things that you're doing that aren't for you. So if you're a leader, like a founder, right, you got to own the vision and take it forward, and you've got to do all these things that drive the business forward. And if you're trying to do sales, if you're trying to do marketing, if you're trying to do ops, and it's just you hate it and it's a struggle, and honestly, it's not going well, that's your tell. It's time to think about bringing in a fractional. Great question.
Hey, John. I have a sense that this AI piece for you has really been has been sort of, I don't know, a bit of a focal point for you. And I'd love you to just dive in a little deeper on this one because, and help me unpack it, because I think there are a number of folks who are concerned that AI is going to disrupt marketing in a way that might take jobs away and opportunities away. Help me understand where you think this all comes together.
Yeah. Actually, I see evidence to the contrary, and we all talk about that with AI, right? We've seen the movies. What's it, Robo? Whatever it is, RoboCop, where AI takes over the world. That's the fear, and certainly that fear button gets pushed a lot. But the evidence I've seen on AI is quite the opposite. It has the ability to make you massively efficient, but it doesn't take away the you. I wrote a blog this morning about what it really takes to be a fractional, and I talked about guts. I talked about what's really in the core of what you are, and AI can't do that. AI can't give you courage. AI can't give you intensity. AI can't give you spirit. AI can't do any of that. So the you part of you remains awesome. AI can do these wonderful things in terms of efficiency. AI can go do far more research than I could in a matter of minutes, that it would take me weeks. AI can compile information that I need to filter in a matter of hours as opposed to a matter of weeks. So it is a massive efficiency play, which leads to cost savings. If I was going to do a plan for somebody when I first started, I'll just take my last company, and I started in 2004. Like, if we were going to do a plan for a big client, I mean, you guys know this. We're going to do focus groups, and we're going to ask, we're going to do so much outside work, and it was going to cost, tens of thousands of dollars and take 6 weeks to months. AI has compressed that cost and compressed that time frame. You're not off the hook. If you think AI is going to do the work for you, it's not. What it's going to do is going to make your job exponentially easier. So it's a plus. I don't see it as a negative. And if there are, I think the market will out those.
So earlier on, you talked about this concept of community and having to, look to help the fractionals to your left and to your right. And I love that idea because all the time as a fractional CFO, we're working with fast-growing companies. The leaders are wearing those multiple hats. And we see that the need is not only in finance, but maybe in sales or marketing. So I love that concept of community. I believe that you've done quite a bit of work cultivating this community of fractionals through your work at Voyager University and maybe the community that you've built there. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that and just the concept of community and how fractionals can support one another.
Yeah, for sure. So I think in a lot of ways, I love this question, Jillian. I think in a lot of ways, we're finding in the fractional community that which we did not get in our corporate community. And what I mean by that is just what I talked about. You have a massive humanity called fractional, right? And I think on LinkedIn now it's over 200,000 people saying that's me. And there's this great organization called Fractionals United. That's a digital place where it all collects. We've got Frac coming up. That's where we all go. But what's different is that is a community. That's a thing. That's a sisterhood and a brotherhood. What's interesting about it is we all work for ourselves, all independent, all entrepreneurs, all in that space of self-determination, which is massively different than in that space of captured and cubicled and not on the ladder, all that space. Two different spaces. And I think what we have wanted for the last 50 years is a true sense of community, but the corporate structure has not really done a good job of allowing for that. Built in, right? Like, hey, if it's a bad shareholder week, half the company's gone. We're going to have layoffs. That's not community, right? That's not watching out for the people to your left and to your right. More dynamics come into play. So what I think is happening is, yes, we create community. We teach people how to do this. We teach them to network and all that. But I think what we're finding is people are like, oh my gosh, these are my people. I help them. They help me. This thing, this fractional, whatever we're calling it right now, it continues to grow. This is a new normal that feels right. I'm self-determined in it, as we all are, but I got my peeps. And my peeps don't want to take my job. My peeps don't micromanage me. My peeps don't, all that stuff.
So, John, when I became fractionally curious last fall at Frac 2023, by the end of it, I was fractionally committed. But there was a term that I had heard for the first time, and that's imposter syndrome. Can you describe that for anyone who's like maybe fractionally curious, and how do they overcome that?
Yeah, you bet. It's funny you say that, Corey, because I wrote about that just today in today's blog. And if you get the newsletter, it'll show up in your inbox, and it's on LinkedIn. Fractional or imposter syndrome, right? First, let's give everybody a little bit of a break. Imposter syndrome is a human condition. Oprah Winfrey, like everybody's role model and hero, right? She suffers from it, right? There's case after case. This is a human condition. It's not a deficiency in any single individual. If you like George Clooney, imposter syndrome, right? So what you can see when you look at that is it can be overcome, but it's a human condition. So you have to deal with it as such. So how do you overcome it? How do you get over imposter syndrome? And do I have the exact recipe for that? Well, I'll talk about that a little, but I think there's two books that a person can read that'll help them accelerate their path across the bridge of imposter syndrome. One is Daring Greatly by Brené Brown. Fantastic book about that. And the other one is Worthy by Jamie Kern Lima. Two great books that help you face the reality we all face, but don't let that little imposter voice tell you that you're not worthy. Because if you're here, you know that all of us are here on 1 in a $4 trillion chance. Like that is the statistical odds of us four being on this call today. We're awesome. This is unbelievable. Your abilities and like you are so set to crush it in life. You already have just by virtue of you're here. That little voice saying you're not good enough. They're going to find out. You don't know enough. It's bullshit. Sorry for swearing if that's not allowed on this podcast. Another thing that I really encourage people to think about. I saw this recently. I can't remember who it was. It was a TikTok, and somebody was saying, "Here's the truth. Nobody knows what the hell they're doing." And it doesn't mean everybody's inept. What it means is the path isn't perfectly clear. The road isn't all set. There isn't like some magical recipe or formula that makes one person better than the other. The real way to overcome it, and this was in that video, is if you show up, if you make promises and keep them, and if you watch out people to the left and right of you, you are going to crush it in this world. As a fractional, as a father, as a mother, as a friend, that's how you overcome imposter syndrome, is by doing the things you already know you need to do.
Hey, John, this is awesome. And we really want to continue the conversation, but we're going to have to do that in two parts. So we're going to wrap this segment up right now, and you can look for part 2 coming shortly. But thank you very much. And we're going to continue the conversation in just a bit.